The most underrated one-on-one player.
ISO Joe.
ISO, I was just about to say that. Joe Johnson.
If you forgot how good Joe Johnson really was, let me be the one to remind you, this man could drop over 20 points on you and your mother's favorite team on any night and make it look easy. For almost 2 decades, he wasn't flashy. He didn't chase headlines. But when the game was on the line, ISO Joe was the coldest man on the court. Before defenders knew it, they were left on an island with their hands full of Johnson. Here's why you should never underestimate his name again. Let's break it down. How Joe Johnson went from a small-town kid in Arkansas to a 7-time NBA All-Star and one of the most slept-on clutch scorers in NBA history. We're diving deep into the highs, the heartbreaks, and the comeback no one saw coming. Joe Johnson wasn't born into basketball royalty. He grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, a place where making it out and making it big is a long shot. His mom, Diane, was a corrections officer. His dad? Not in the picture. It was just him and his dreams, grinding in a city that rarely made headlines. By the time he hit high school, it was clear that Joe could hoop. He dominated the local circuit, and by his senior year, he was averaging 18.5 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 5.2 assists per game, and was named Arkansas Mr. Basketball. After a successful high school campaign, he took his talents to the University of Arkansas. But here's where things got interesting. Joe only stayed in college for 1 year, and that's all NBA scouts needed.
The Boston Celtics select Joe Johnson from the University of Arkansas.
Fast forward to 2001. The Boston Celtics draft him 10th overall. Big market, big expectations. As a rookie, Johnson was regularly starting and produced a humble 6.3 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 1.5 assists per game. But after just 48 games, the Boston Celtics shipped Joe off to the Phoenix Suns. Why? Because Boston didn't think he had star potential. That was their first mistake. In Phoenix, Joe found his rhythm. He wasn't just a shooter, he was a problem. Long arms, smooth jumper, unshakable calm. He played next to Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, and Sean Marion, named on one of the most electrifying teams of the 2000s. But here's the twist. After averaging nearly 17 points a game and proving himself in the playoffs, he didn't stay. He wanted more, a bigger role, his own team. So in 2005, Joe Johnson did what most young stars wouldn't. He left a winning team to sign with the Atlanta Hawks, a franchise that was, let's be honest, in shambles. The media clowned him. Why would you leave a contender to go to a lottery team? They asked. Joe didn't care. He wanted to lead. And in Atlanta, he did just that. Year by year, the Hawks got better. Joe became a scoring machine, averaging 20-plus points for 5 straight seasons, earning 6 All-Star selections while carrying a team that had no other All-NBA talents. But he wasn't loud about it. When it came to Joe, it was clear that his actions spoke for him on the court, and his actions had a lot to say. He wasn't a human highlight reel that produced an insane mixtape every season, and I guess that's why so many people forgot. But if you watched those games, you knew Joe Johnson was surgical. Give him the ball with the shot clock winding down, and he'd cook your favorite defender, ISO style. Now let's talk about the contract. In 2010, Joe signed a 6-year, $123 million deal with the Hawks, one of the richest in NBA history at the time. And people lost it. The media roasted him. He's not worth that. He's overpaid. He's not a superstar. But Joe never flinched. He just kept ballin'. Then came the Brooklyn chapter. In 2012, the Hawks traded him to the Nets. Brooklyn was building a super team. Deron Williams, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and now Joe Johnson. But injuries, chemistry issues, and sky-high expectations crushed the dream. Still, Joe delivered moments. Game winners, clutch buckets. He never shrank in big moments. Even late in his career, when he joined Miami, Utah, and Houston, he made headlines with his late-game heroics. But the story doesn't end there. At 39 years old, 2 years removed from his last NBA game, Joe Johnson wasn't done. He dominated the Big Three League, winning MVP and a championship, and then in 2021 made an NBA comeback with the Boston Celtics. It was poetic. 20 years after they gave up on him, he suited up in green one more time and hit a bucket like he never left. Think about that. Who else plays in the NBA in 3 different decades and still scores? Joe Johnson may never get the flowers he deserves from casual fans, but real hoopers know. He was a bucket, a leader, a legend in his own lane. So what's the problem here? Well, Joe's career proves that being elite quietly often means being underrated. He didn't chase controversy, he didn't feed drama, he just hooped. And in today's NBA, that sometimes means you get forgotten. But not here. Not today. Because Joe Johnson's journey is proof that greatness doesn't always scream. It whispers. It shows up, drops 30, and leaves without saying a word. And for a kid from Little Rock, Arkansas, that's the real dream.